Nick Fouch is in the house getting us set up and ready to go with our interior home update project. So Nick Fouch has come up here to help us with our update project. This has been something we set a goal to do last winter. It was actually 2016. We knew we wanted to update a lot of our interior. We have a lot of, it's very dated, and this was an owner-built home, so there were some odd odd construction, and stuff like that.
A little bit hodgepodge. You can definitely tell that one part of the house was built at one time, added on to. So we're trying to unify the look inside and get it updated.
Right. So when we moved in, the lower third of our walls was this really old wainscoting that had a lot of cigarette smell to it. There was a lot of smoking going on in here before we bought this place. So we removed all that and put new wallboard up, but the upper 2/3 is all textured. The bottom is just regular wallboard. So we are trying to get a more uniform look. Do you want to talk about what our goal here is?
Yeah, one thing that's really popular right now is shiplap siding on interior walls, and so that's what they've decided to go with. We're doing sort of a DIY model of that. It's 1/4-inch plywood ripped into 6-inch strips, and it's all primed and sanded before it goes up, but it's going to go right over the top of the existing wall surfaces, which should work out pretty well. It's a kind of a heavy texture on the drywall, so we might have some oddities that we deal with here and there, but it's a nice clean look. I like the strong horizontal lines, and we're also updating trim throughout on all windows and doors, so it'll be a unified look throughout the house. Previous owner, possibly builder, was in love with large crown molding, even though they have quite low ceilings. So that's all coming off. This surface isn't going to be an issue because we're putting the shiplap right up over that. The ceiling, though, they're trying to keep as is. The texture is in good condition. A heavy texture on the ceiling is really pretty common, and it looks good. We'll just have to do some cleanup of that caulking line where that came off. Should be able to get patched up, and when they decide to paint, it should all kind of become one. We are putting a piece of trim up there, but nowhere near the depth of that luxurious crown molding. So this is a laundry room, pantry. It goes on through to their bathroom, and it was just sort of an open door frame. I've taken away a lot of the jamb and everything that was there before, and we're framing it in with a header. We're making the opening just a little narrower, not so narrow that those machines couldn't be replaced. But then we're doing another sort of popular item these days, which is a sliding barn door. It's the door itself will just be a 5-panel door, but the track and the hardware and everything is the barn door slider stuff. And these are all parts that I fabricated myself, which is something I'm doing back at the shop now.
And we chose to do the sliding door not just because it's a fad, but because it's actually a necessity in our small space right here, because where you're standing is our kitchen.
Absolutely.
If I pan over here.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's popular now, and I see it misapplied a lot of the time, that it's just a thing that people want to throw up. But it really, a sliding door makes a lot of sense in a lot of, smaller spaces, and it's just a more efficient way to use space rather than having a big footprint for the door to come into the room. We did that ourselves in our house as well. The only interior door we have is a slider. I'm gonna let Nick get back to work. We'll be documenting the progress as it's going along and take you along for the ride.
Since we had two different wall boards going into the project, this one already being painted from the previous owner, and then down here was just raw wallboard. The first thing we needed to do was prime both of them to get an even white background. Because we have two different wallboard surfaces here behind me, we're using two different types of primer. The lower portion of our walls is new wallboard that we installed last year before we moved in here. And on that we'll be putting SafeCoat PrimeCoat HPV new wallboard primer. SafeCoat is pretty much the least toxic of all paint options there is. It is doctor recommended, not toxic, and premium quality. It's formaldehyde-free, it has very low VOC, minimum outgassing, and no unnecessary chemicals. For the top section of wallboard, we're using transitional primer by SafeCoat, which is designed to put on top of existing coats of paint. This shiplap is from plywood, but it's not just any plywood. It's a product from Home Depot called Purebond. And instead of using formaldehyde in the adhesives, in the plywood, they use a soy-based adhesive. So there's no toxic gases off-gassing from the plywood. So if you're gonna do this project at home, I highly recommend you guys go with Purebond or some other soy-based adhesive versus formaldehyde. This is 1/4 inch plywood, and this comes in 8x4 sheets. What Nick did was he ripped them into 6-inch sections using a table saw, which gives us these nice panels. And as Nick said, he sanded them and primed them at his house before he came here, so he wasn't taking up his time here doing that sort of work. You took the crown molding down, and you have baseboards on the floor area now, and trim around the doors and windows. Yes. That has been redone. And now I see you have a laser out.
I do. It's one of my favorite tools in the toolbox is the laser level. It's really a pretty inexpensive one. I've used it to sight my house and my shop and hang cabinets and kind of everything in between. What I'm doing with the laser level is that since we're establishing all of these horizontal lines, we want those all to read really nice and level, and ideally parallel to the door and window openings and to the baseboard. So all of those things were set up more or less level, and the house looks pretty nice and level. But with the laser set up, I'm able to determine my first course of shiplap, and then I'll go up from there. And then I'll come back and do the bottom course custom to the baseboard. So this just establishes my first full course.
And when you say custom to the baseboard, you mean that each piece of shiplap is 6 inches, but they may not evenly work out from the top to bottom. So
exactly. So we know that we're setting it up about 5.5 off of the baseboard, and that's in order to absorb any inconsistencies and how the floor wanders as you move around the room. So that's a place where you won't really see it, whereas if we got all the way up to the top or had every course following a line that wasn't level up the wall, you'd really pick that up. So we're dealing with 8-foot long goods. Yeah, it's walls much longer than 8 feet. So we're going to have some seams in the boards. The trick is just to randomize it as much as possible so that you have staggered seams that look somewhat natural as you're moving around. No need to find a stud and make it land on the stud. We're just using 1/2-inch staples to go to the drywall, and the adhesive does most of the work. This is 41.5. This is an 8-foot stick. I'll probably randomize it even more than just put the next one over here.
I see.
We'll do one there, and try and spread them throughout the wall so that it's not just truly alternating either. True randomization is a hard thing for humans to do, but you gotta give it your best shot. Part of the appeal with this is that it does actually look like separate pieces. So you just pick sort of a something that's pleasing to the eye, and we talked about a coin's width. So I'm using quarters. They're nice and big and easy to grab a hold of, and terribly consistent.
And this is the reason why we needed to prime the wall behind there, so because there is a little gap.
You will see just a little bit. So if you had different colors going on, or really distinct, you know, or green paint or something, then you'd definitely be aware of it. One down, huh?
Very nice. Nick, all the shiplap is up now. It looks awesome, but the work is not done. What's going on now?
So every staple that I put in it, I now have to make disappear. So just going by and filling staple holes, the little pin nail holes on the trim. I'm also going to be caulking all of the places where trim meets shiplap, where trim meets the ceiling. That's sort of standard, you know, you put caulking in next to your trim. So, and also inside corners. I think it'll clean up really quite nice, take away all those little irregularities that you can see, I can see.
And that's just regular drywall spackle?
Yeah, this is just, it's called Dry Dex. This is cool because it is, it's pink until it's dry. When it turns white, you know it's done. So. The spackling compound's a little more flexible and durable than regular drywall mud. It just has to be for where it's going. So drywall mud would probably shrink into the holes or crack and fall out. So you want to use decent spackle. So in order to cover up this, the old molding line from the luxurious crown molding, we are doing just a little build out with square material. This we just assembled ourselves here, and it covers nicely. That's a nice little detail, and isn't too hard to work with.
How do you get those two pieces to stick together?
Well, they just have pin nails in between the two, and really those pin nails holding the two pieces together just have to hold them long enough for me to get it nailed to the wall.
Right.
Both pieces are getting glued in, nailed to the house. So. Well, we're pretty much wrapped up here. We got all the caulking done, so all of the trim to the shiplap is all caulked. All the crown molding and everything, and baseboard all caulked in, and all looks pretty nice and tight. Got our little corner trim on here to encapsulate these ends. Everything's filled and wiped down again, and I think it went fairly well. We were on a kind of a short timeline here just because of my travel and my schedule and stuff, but I think it was good to get sort of in and out and not have lives disrupted for too terribly long. So I think it went pretty well. I'm happy with sort of the level of detail that I was able to achieve, and seems like the clients are pretty happy with it. So I think it went fairly well.
What do you think, little buddy?
I like the words. They look pretty nice. Thank you, Nick Fouch, for making pretty nice words.
So Nick,
Yeah.
what happened to our doors? I thought you were gonna put up some doors for us.
Yeah, I decided not to. It sounded boring. No, I ordered doors and they did not arrive on time. So when you put your fate in somebody else's hands, that can happen. So we'll have to make a return trip. I don't mind coming back and making it all happen. So we'll have to come back around to it.
Awesome. Well, we're really looking forward to getting some of that Nick Fouch custom fabricated door hardware on there. That's gonna be awesome.
Soon to be available worldwide. No, probably not.
Okay.